Greetings, peace. Peace, love and light to you all, family. Nyanmulisa, I greet you all in the name of love, in the name of divine, beautiful intelligence, in the name of consciousness. Welcome to another YouTube video with me, your host, Mathix. Now, I think it's been over a year since I've done a movie decoding. Yeah. And the only reason that I haven't done... Okay, I don't want to say that because, it's not really laziness. It takes time to decode a movie, because first of all you have to watch it, then I have to watch it while I'm making notes. Then I'm making notes, then I have to shoot the video, then I have to edit it, But because I love you guys and I enjoy giving this information to you guys, I thought it's about time that I get back into decoding movies, because a lot of people, they seem to enjoy that, and I enjoy it as well also. So don't mind me. I love tea, guys. When was it? A couple of months back, we were at some family function, and so it was many family members. So I'm at the back, right? So I'm drinking tea, and one of my aunts walks in. She's like, what's that candy tea? She's like, you still love tea? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you used to love tea when you were growing up. And then so she sits down, and then after a while, my other aunt comes in also, and then she's like, you still love tea even now? And then she's like, my other aunt is like, I was just telling him the same thing. So they told me that when I was a kid, when the family used to sit around, I used to take tea from leftover tea from people's cups, and then I would pour them into one cup. And so they thought maybe I'm just trying to clean up. And then they after I would do that, I would sit by a corner and then drink that tea. Oh man, this thing of a hot beverage. My friend and my queen, they also have this thing. They're like, hey, you and tea, Hey, but I love tea. I just hope that they don't watch this video to hear me admit it. So today we're going to be doing Xmen Apocalypse. This is going to be a very great decoding. If you haven't watched the Xmen Apocalypse movie, it's up to you. Either you're going to watch the movie first, or you're going to watch me decode it, then watch it, or you can do it at the same time. It's up to you. I'm just being careful not to slurp it, when you get carried away. Okay, so Xmen Apocalypse. So the first thing that I want to speak to you about is that, listen here, to evolve in consciousness, there's some things that you're gonna have to know, that it's just a must, that you must know these things. And once you know these things, then you're going to be able to understand why the world is in the state that it's in, why certain groups of people are in the state they are in. So what you must know about Xmen Apocalypse before you can understand this movie is you need to understand the history of so-called black people. Even though we are one human race, these different races did not enter the cycles of time. There's this new book that I ordered on Amazon. It came a couple of days ago. It came last week. So it's called Race and Consciousness, African Cosmology of Kemet, with the spiritual meaning of the N words like nigger, goose, the goose goddess who laid the sun egg, the cosmic egg, revealed in the Kab-Ab-Ba, which is the Kabbalah. But we will speak about that. It's a book by Dr. Terry Nelson. I love this lady so much. So I ordered this book. I've been diving into it, and it's so cool because I started doing this decoding 2 weeks back, but I haven't been finding time. And what I'm reading it now here, some of the stuff they're already here, and it's so interesting because this book speaks about what I told you that you need to know, and that is the history of black people. There is a history of black people that is being covered up, whereas now the world and the modern day scientists and their who are these people, anthropologists and these Egyptologists, they say that black people have no history. They say the Chinese have a history, the Indians have a history, the Asians, all people have a history except black people. So they say that we contributed nothing to history until the white man came. So basically that's what they are saying, that there was no contribution in terms of into civilization by the black race. So Nina, your grandmothers, your grandfathers, and down till wherever we began, we contributed nothing. And that's what this movie is actually talking about. Because what you need to understand is that there are those people who know the truth. I'm going to leave a link in this video down here of this man. Like, sometimes you must hear it from Caucasians, because it's Caucasians, it's white people who at school they teach you a history, but some of them it's not that they have an agenda. They also don't know, because the history that they are getting, they don't know that it's been modified by the Vatican and people in secret societies of priests with an agenda to enslave humans by falsifying history. They are literally destroying the blueprints so that no one can see who is the original and who is the copy. So most of the intelligence is being attributed to the Greeks and to the Romans. But the Greeks themselves tell you that, hey, we learned this thing from Africans. We learned it from Egyptians, and Egyptians are black people. But then over time, this has been something that has been used, or rather, the knowledge that the ancient Egyptians were African people, and all of that which they have contributed is because of these people. So civilization within itself, mathematics, science, astronomy, all these things, which you're going to see when we get into the decoding, is a result of black people. But now, in order to justify slavery, in order to justify the systematic oppression of this particular group of people, they had to rub them out of history and say that, okay, no, these people they are subhuman. You see, so but we're gonna get into it here. So let's jump into it. Xmen Apocalypse. All right. So when the movie begins, it begins there where they're in the Nile Valley, and you see that the camera zooming in there. Professor X says that mutants born with the extraordinary ability, yet they are children, stumbling and looking for guidance. A gift can often be a curse. Give someone wings and they might fly too close to the sun. Give someone the power of prophecy and they might live in fear of the future. Woo! All right, we're gonna get into it. It's gonna be nice. So first of all, let's decode the word mutant. So when you look at the word mutant, the word within itself, the root word in there is mutant, which is mutation. So now we are dealing with mutation. We are dealing with the body. Remember, you are the biological temple. You are the first order technology. All else which is external is secondary. You are the technology. So psychic abilities, clairvoyance, all these things that the world is now coming to find. They were not a mystery to ancient people. It was an everyday thing to know that a human is psychic, a human is telepathic, a human can heal with the power of chi or prana, a human can ascend to the level of the gods and to the angels by certain disciplines. This was known. Now later on, people who can access these things, they call them they would label it as mutation. All right, so let's first of all decode some of the characters before we get into it. So some of just like we're not gonna do all of them. So mutation, we're dealing with the body. We're gonna start with who? Let's start with Professor X. So Professor X within himself, when you see him, he represents the thought, he represents the psyche, he represents the mind. That X could also be a thing of like, now it's the X chromosome, but we'll get into that. He represents the psyche. That's why in throughout the X-Men movies, you see him walk into that structure that they created, that structure that they created, which they call cerebro. Cerebro is the brain, the cerebrum, it's the head, it's the dome. So he represents this part. And then his counterpart, Magneto represents the heart. He represents magnetism. That's why you see Magneto is ruled by emotions. You know, like how he treats people is based on the emotions. When you see him with him now wanting to start a family, and then all of a sudden he's protective because, you know, the environment seems to be allowing that. When his family was killed, his emotions now took hold of him and he killed those guys. which we'll get into as well. But Magneto represents the heart chakra. He's magnetism, because it is the heart chakra that generates the magnetic field, whereas the brain generates the electro or the electricity. So you are an electromagnetic being, which is what makes up your aura. So your aura, your brain, Professor X, that's why he's psychic and he can read minds. He sends out the thoughts. Magneto, he's the heart, the magnetism, the ability to draw, the ability to navigate, the ability to pull things towards you. That's magnetism. All right, let's get into another one here. Then we go into Jean Grey. Now, what is the gene? Obviously, the gene is the genome. It's the genealogy. It's your genes, because the mutation of humanity is happening where? It's happening within your genes. Your genes are changing, or things that were dormant within your DNA are now coming forth. So Jean represents that. She also represents the Kundalini fire. That's why now she's feeling all that heat. She's that serpentine fire. She's the phoenix. And if you look at her name also, Jean what? Jean Grey. The gray matter. The gray matter is an essential type of tissue in your brain and spinal cord. It plays a significant role in mental functions, memory, emotions, and movement. Let me read that again. The gray matter is an essential type of tissue in the brain and spinal cord. It plays a significant role in mental functions, memory, emotions, and movement. I want you to keep that in mind. Because there's a scene in the movie where they run into Wolverine. When he was locked up, and then Jean touches him here on the head, and then after he leaves, one of the guys asks him, he's like, what did you do to him? She's like, I gave him a part of his memory that he had lost. I gave him something that was his, and I simply just gave it back to him. And also, what did they say? They say that it's a function of what? Of memory, emotions, and movement. She has those ability to, they show her with those ability to also move things. It's not telekinesis. It's telekinetic. There's telekinesis, the ability to move objects. So that's what she represents. Jean, the genes. The gray is the gray matter. And she has those aspects of what gray matter represents. Okay, cool. Now we're going to get into another character, Quicksilver. Quicksilver is another one of the cool characters. Now, what Quicksilver represents in alchemy, Mercury silver. Quicksilver represents Mercury in alchemy, and Mercury is what? Mercury is a symbol for the mind, or the mental aspect. Thought. Mercury is thought. Thought can move faster than the speed of light. That's why you see this homie with that ability to move quick. He's the speed of thought. So he can tap into a quicker speed. Remember, all of these things have to do with you. That's why when you saw him walk inside the building when it was burning up, it was so easy for him, to quickly get people out of there. Because once you get your thoughts aligned, then your thoughts are the seeds, and they're gonna begin to now be planted in your garden. All of this is biology. Then we jump into let's see here. Who's another character that we have here? We have the guy that shoots the thing out of his eyes. Cyclops. Is it Cyclops? He's a symbol of the third eye. Then we have Mystique. That's that dark blue skin. That's that melanin. That's that neuromelanin, that ability to shape shift. That's that melanin. That's what she represents. Okay, so I was just giving you the characters here. Now we're gonna get into the movie. So now the first scene that we see when the movie starts is where They show the people walking, and they have the solar boat. That boat that you see, that's the solar boat. It's what the ancient Egyptians or the Kemites, it was a symbol of the crossing over into the afterlife. You get carried, you cross the waters into the spirit plane. So that's what that solar boat represents there. Okay, so the first scene represents the passing of the soul from one body to the next, representing conscious death or reincarnation. So then the next scene we see here is where the pyramid is collapsing. And I wrote here, the falling of the pyramid is the changing in the cycle of time, where the African mind went into a deep sleep or a deep slumber, and they went into the state of now forgetting. They went into the state of forgetting, because remember, before we live in a world of cycles. We live in a world of cycles. We had lived on the earth for great cycles of time, where we witnessed the precessions of the equinox, where we experienced the great year. We experienced 25,000 years of going around our galaxy, and we experienced these multiples of times. But there came a time when we went into the age of what they call Kali Yuga. In the East, they call them the Yugas. So there's a Yuga which lasts a short period of time, but it's still a long time. But it's the shortest among the cycles. The other ones last longer. But this dark period, it's a cycle where we go into the depth of matter, and when we go in that, we fall asleep in consciousness. So we might still be functioning physically, but the memory of who we are spiritually, we begin to not know how to navigate between the physical and the spiritual. Hence, you could see it was so easy for the Caucasians to come in and convince black people to burn all their sacred things, and to tell them that these things don't work, because the slumber had already taken place. The fall began before even the Caucasians came here. They just came when we were at the end of it. So remember, when civilizations fall, other ones that are younger, they can come in and conquer. So by the time that they came into the African continent, it was long that all these things had been discovered, math, science, all of these things. It was just time for the elders to go to sleep. Okay, so that's cool. Let's continue here. And then we see a scene where now they are fighting in the cage scene, right? So now that just also shows how far we have fallen, because all these things, all these abilities that people have, they still remain. There's still some of those people in society who remained with these certain gifts, but all of those were used for trivial things, for either for entertainment or to make money, or other people using other people to make money, enslaving them. I mean, there were human zoos. There were zoos where they would put people in there, and they were like, these people are subhuman. So all of these things, they were used for now trivial, mundane, everyday things, entertainment basically. The next important scene that I noted here, we see a scene where now Magneto is singing to his child, and when he's singing, he's like, I learned this song from my parents, and they learned it from their parents. And basically what he's saying is, that's how information is passed down. That's how information is passed down. It's passed down through song, it's passed down through story, it's passed down through mythology. That's what they're representing here. So all the things that are awakening inside of you, all these things have been transferred to you. They've been passed down to you through stories, through songs, through mythology, and now they are coming alive inside of you. Okay, so then we see a scene where now the light enters the pyramid, and then it begins a chain reaction and wakes up now who the big guy, Apocalypse. And that is basically a symbol of now the soul that had once fallen asleep in one cycle now is awakening in a different cycle, which is the cycle of the age of Aquarius. Hence we see him there, boom, with his eye with his eye popping, with his eye opening up, which is just a symbol of that. When you open that eye, you begin the great awakening inside of you. Then now the next scene that we see here, they show Jean burning up. And in her mind's eye, she's seeing these apocalyptic scenes. And then when she wakes up, she says, I saw the end of the world. So what that burning represents, that's that Kundalini energy. Because when that Kundalini, when that phoenix, when that serpentine fire rises, it burns up all the etheric threads, it burns up all the karma, it burns up all false ideas of yourself. So that's what the end of the world is. It's the end of a paradigm shift of one way of thinking and introducing a new way of thinking. And so she says also, she's like, it's some dark power that's inside and it's growing. That dark power, that's that neuromelanin. That's the Kundalini as it sparks up the body. That dark power is also it's that dark side of yourself. It's the unknown aspects of yourself. It's that dark matter or that dark energy. And what Professor X says to her, Are, everyone fears that which they do not understand. And that is so true. Because you don't understand certain aspects of yourself, you fear them or you shun them away. Because it's too much for you to comprehend at this given time. So you'd rather just, you push them back. You don't want to deal with it. That's what we do. Okay, so now the next scene that we show, that's important here. They show Professor X going into that whole thing, cerebral. That's the brain. Remember we said that Professor X represents the psyche, represents the brain, and then that's where that's basically where your energy goes when you awaken. It goes into the kingdom of God to light up, to spark up your heavenly dome, to spark up your head. And then we see here where now he finds that lady who was in Egypt. And when they get to that lady's office, she tells them, this is a very important part. She's like, she tells them, she says that these men who were searching, she tells them about these men who were searching for an ancient being that they believe to be the world's first mutant. What? They were searching for this ancient being that they believe to be the world's first mutant. Now, mutant is just basically anyone who can tap into these extraordinary abilities, and we know that the ancient people were renowned for that, man. They built pyramids, they built obelisks, they built all these great stone structures, the Great Zimbabwe. They build Inzalo Yelanga, which is what they call Adam's calendar. They had to be tapped into some other form of energy in order for them to be able to navigate the stars. So then this guy says, Havoc says, I thought mutants only evolved in this century. Now, remember that the European thinks that nothing was happening in the world until he arrived in Africa. Nothing was happening in the Americas until he arrived. They say Christopher Columbus discovered America when there were already people living in America. They say Jan van Riebeeck discovered the south of Africa when there were already people living here. So no place to them existed until they got there. So that's why it's that egotistical narcissistic mindset of these men, of these colonizers who came in and claimed everything for themselves when there were already a people living in these particular lands. So that's why it's like, I thought mutants didn't evolve until this century. And then the lady says that they have been searching ancient sites looking for clues. So that's why they keep going to all these ancient sites. And whenever they get there, all they keep finding is the fact that, damn, these people were melanated, these people were black people. The very same people who we are trying to say that they have no history, they have no story. These are the same people who gave us the highest science. They contributed the most to civilization. And then Professor X says, damn, so they think that he lived all that time? You think that he lived all that time? Yeah. Your genealogy, your genes, you go back into time immemorial. You go back into times that they cannot even measure. That's how long you've been here. And even when you look at Apocalypse and his skin, you could see, okay, man, good dark. That's a black dude right there. But whenever they show that, like in movies like Avatar, you can see that they talk about black people, but instead of just using black people, they'll paint them blue, but then they'll create a whole different alien species. But you can still see that the way of life is basically the way of life that native people have had all along, getting along with nature, being able to communicate with the great spirit of the earth. They just can't straight up come forward and say, hey, look, these people are these people. So you've lived all that time. You've lived all those eons. And then that guy refers to the lady tells them, she's like, every time he pops up, he always chooses 4 people. And then that guy says, like the four horsemen of the Bible. And then the guy says, oh, he must have got it from there. And then the lady says, nah, or the Bible got it from him. Which is true. Many texts, many of these things, the Bible, all of these things were taken from earlier stories, earlier mythological stories that were later on composed and taken and then, put in a way that they could give it to the general public. But this information existed for thousands of years. And the depth of it was to awaken the Christ consciousness within you, which is what they call the Christos or the Charis. Then the next scene we see here is we see Apocalypse touching the TV, and then he begins to download and learn. And then what he says is that the weak have taken the earth. For this I was betrayed. Idols, false god, no more, for I have returned. And that's basically what happened. All the people who have colonized, all the people, the people who now so-called rule the world, which they really don't. They trust so much in their weapons and guns, in military technology, and to the ancient mind that was dealing with higher mental activities. These are like toys, because remember, the first technology is the body. So there's like, for this I was betrayed. For these weak people, for these false gods, but I have returned, meaning that I have awakened. And him, Apocalypse, is you. You as an individual, no matter your race, you are the one that now must destroy these false gods, the system, by internally going inside yourself. Then Storm asks him, where did you come from? And then he says, a time before man lost his way. The world needs to rebuild. And then in another scene, they show him looking for mutants. He says, you are all my children. You are all lost. You follow blind leaders. These false gods, these fake systems are of the weak. But now, he says, you are all my children, but you are all lost because you follow blind leaders. These false gods, systems of the weak, they have ruined my world. No more. Come on. We don't even need to go far to see what we think is the highest civilization. We're actually backwards. If we were to look at what the ancients were doing, man, our civilization is like the lowest of the lowest. And then in another scene now we see him with Magneto, where they were looking for Magneto, and Magneto asks, who are you? And then he says, Elohim, Sin, Shin, Ra. I have been called many names over many lifetimes. I am born of death. I was there to spark and fan the flame of man's awakening and to spin the wheel of civilization. And when the forest grew rent and needed cleaning, I was there to set it ablaze. Woo! And then Magneto asks, where were you when all of these things were happening, when my mother and my father were slaughtered? And he says, asleep, trapped in darkness. That's that great slumber. When all this trauma was happening in the world, slavery, all these things, genocide, we were in a deep sleep, deep sleep. We could not access those parts of ourselves because the slumber had taken place. We had sunk lower and lower into matter in the great cycle of Kali Yuga. But then the great cycle of awakening was to be revealed, because remember, apocalypse means an unveiling. The word apocalypse means an unveiling of something which was hidden. So what apocalypse represents, he represents the unveiling of a hidden truth. And what is that hidden truth? That hidden truth is the Christ within you, and thus then the Christ within all of us. We represent the collective Christ, the Messiah. The Messiah is not one man. We are all the Messiah. And to be the collective Messiah, it starts with individuals recognizing their own inner Messiahs. Let's see here. Okay, so then after that, he hacks into Cerebro. And then he fires all those nukes and missiles. And then he says, so much faith in their tools and their weapons and their system. You know, that's we have so much faith in this technology, but we forget that we ourselves create the technology. We make phones, cars, virtual, we make these things. So are we not higher than what we create? We are higher than what we create, but what we have created has now become our idols, because now we worship what we have created, where we kill each other over phones, over money, over laptops, over possessions, things that we make with our own hands. It's just like me cutting this piece of paper, making something out of it, and someone coming and walking into this room and killing me over this thing, which we can make again and again. But can you make a human soul? Can you make that intelligence? That you can't make. But we've fallen asleep to that which is important, and we've given attention to the things that are trivial, things that we ourselves make with our own hands. And so that's why it's like so much faith in their tools and things that they've... Apocalypse says that, he says about Egypt, he says that this was meant to be the center of the universe before it was betrayed, before it went into the great slumber. Remember that Egypt was also Egypt, or what they call Egypt. All of that which the Africans had mastered and perfected, they perfected it and brought it about and brought it to life truly in Egypt. But all over the Sudan and Ethiopia, and then when you go down the Nile and you come into the Sub-Sahara and you come into South Africa, you see pyramids, you see where it started. You see pyramids all over, you see castles. So you see how it developed and it got perfected in the north. But all of that comes from the south. It comes from the south. And then so now there's a part where now they are fighting, and then he finally got a hold of Professor X, and he says that out of all my gifts, the one I have yet to possess, I've only out of all my gifts, I've yet to possess one, and that is to be everywhere, to be everyone. That basically just represents mastery, self-mastery. Because once you master yourself, you realize that you are everyone. And thus then when you are everyone, you are everywhere. Because we are all brothers in Christ, meaning that we are each other. Remember, the first law of the universe is all is mind, and everything in the universe is mental. So we may look separate. I may look like my own separate entity, and I am, but only to a certain degree. Because at the end of the day, we are all expressions of one creator. So we are one in that creator. So we are one thing. And there's levels of feelings and thought where you can actually feel at one with other people. And that is the rising that he's speaking about. That is what is happening in this great awakening, where we are becoming one. Check this out. In Doctor Strange, I decoded the movie Doctor Strange. The other guy says that this is the age of, I forgot what he calls it, the age of. He's like, it's where the many become the few, become the one. Why are all these so-called bad guys saying all these dope, profound things? You need to stop watching movies in terms of good and bad. We've been taught to look at movies from a good and bad. Oh, this guy's good. Oh, he's the good guy. Oh, he's the enemy. Nah. These There's another one in Thor, the second Thor, where that guy was trying to align, where they were dealing with the alignment of the planets. They were bringing in that alignment. Why are they all talking about this alignment or this coming together? Huh? So sometimes you watch movies and you think, oh, that guy's the enemy, and then you cheer. Nah, you're missing the point. It's not about that. All these are forces and battles taking place inside of you. An apocalypse is happening inside of you. There is a battle inside of you. That's what you see there at the last scene, them fighting beast, and it's you fighting your inner beast with Cyclops and Mystique and Storm. It's all the things that are raging inside of you as you try to take hold. You know, as you do shadow work, these battles are taking place inside of you. Inside of you. They say that once if he can get hold of Professor X, he'll be able to control everyone in the world. And that everyone in the world is you. You are everyone in the world. Because once you can get a hold of you, then you realize that, oh damn, all these are me. Oh, everyone is my reflection. And then you begin to master yourself. Last one that I'm going to talk about here is where you see him there and like he's burning up. He says at the end, he's like, all is revealed. All is revealed. So in this movie, they reveal so many gems to you. I mean, I'm just like speeding through it, but they revealed so many gems. There's so many gems. But all of these gems are things that have to do with your genes, are things that have to do with your psyche. They're things that have to do with your thoughts, with the Kundalini energy, how it rises inside of you. All this, the information, how your ancestors passed down things to you. That's what this apocalypse movie is about. And it is also because, remember, the people who make these movies, like the people who make Gods of Egypt, there's this systematic thing where they're trying to whitewash history, where they put white people in all of these things. They put white people in Gods of Egypt. How could the Egyptians have been white when, come on, man. It's just a weird agenda. But as I said, I'm gonna leave links. There's this white man who made this beautiful documentary about Africa, and he gets into how Africa was before white people and the great things that they contributed to civilization. And he speaks about this. You know, there are many white authors that have come to speak out, like, yo, Joe, most of what we're learning in school is false. It's been falsified due to some weird racism or some type of weird agenda, but it's not the true history. And until people can know the true history of the beauty that each race has added to civilization, we won't be able to move on, because there will always be this dark cloud hanging over us, hanging over black people, hanging over white people, because they think that black people are like this, and then black people think that, you know, you see. So it's very important to get into researching true history. There's a teacher that I've been studying also recently, Sheikh Diop. He proves that the ancient Egyptians were black, you know, and he debated with high scholars. Check him out, and he left so much evidence that they were so shocked. He wrote a book this thick, that man, and he wrote many other books to prove that the culture, that their traditions, that if you were to compare the Bantu people of the south and the Egyptians, you could see, oh no, same stuff, same WhatsApp group. The Dogons of Mali, same WhatsApp group. So that apocalypse, when they're speaking about he's been alive all the time, they're talking about you, black child. They're talking about you. It's all about your history, because they say that all life came from Africa. If all life came from Africa, then that would mean that everyone is a descendant of Africa. We are all Africans. Just that over time things change, and you know, people mutate, and because of different environments, certain hair grows long, the nose changes because of where you are, climate, and remember we've been here for millions of years. So of course over those millions of years, different mutations would take place. But there was a time that they speak about, that they also speak about in this book, that and before the Ice Age, the only race that had been on the planet was of a melanated state. And then after that whole thing, different parts, different mutations began to now take place in the body. You see? So family, that's where we're gonna stop this video. This has been Xmen Apocalypse. Watch it, decode it, comment, disagree. It's cool. It's you know, I'm not saying that this is, you know, there's many ways. I'm not saying hey, you know, do your own research. This is me telling you from what I've come to see, what I've come to learn, and what I feel and what I see as I'm decoding, and from reading and from studying different scholars, white people and black people, ones who say, yo, no, these niggas ain't shit, and ones who tell you that, no, bro, these people are something. You see? So from looking here and then looking there, you begin to see the whole puzzle. So peace, family. Much love and light to you all. I'm gonna leave the link to that white man who was talking about who did the African documentary, and I'm also gonna leave a link to another platform, CTO, Collective Transcendence Organization. That's an organization that I'm part of, with a group of people, with my family, with my friends, with, you know, that's with my tribe, where we are bringing this information also to you. But there's not just me, it's me and other people there. You know, we have a podcast. We recently opened a YouTube channel. We have Twitter. So I'm gonna also leave the link to that, where you can find us on all the different platforms. And please do follow us on that YouTube channel as well. Follow us on our TikTok, on the CTO TikTok. Follow us on CTO on Twitter, so that you could get this information ngapa na ngapa, left and right. So yeah, family, peace, love and light. Let me just see, is there anything that I'm leaving out? I don't think that there's anything that I'm leaving out. If there is, then yeah, you know, it is yeah, no. Peace, family. Much love.